Welcome back to another episode of Girls & Co. We've got the two OGs, Taylor and Sam, and a very, very, very special guest. Jess is here.
Yay.
Which, long time coming. You were supposed to actually come on the week that the original show got deleted.
It wasn't me. Bad omen, but I'm here.
That's fine. We're happy you're here. Love it.
Yes,
So we start off
here.
each episode by talking about our weekend. So, Sam, what'd you do this weekend?
Let's think. Oh, I stopped by Kenobio's boxing event for a little bit on Saturday, and that was really cool. It was great to see how happy he was and how great it all turned out. I got dinner with Zach and BBD and Cassie, which was nice. Saturday night was beautiful out. Sunday I had a great day with Mac. We went to the gym. We got our nails done.
I like that color.
And yeah, thank you.
That's
and
fun.
then, we went to this place called Zay Bars.
Ooh.
Have you guys heard of it or been?
From the Toast?
From the Toast, yeah.
No, I have not.
The
haven't
podcast
either.
I
I was
listen
gonna
to,
say
like,
I've heard of it.
raves about it. I think it's famous in New York. They're all over the place. It's like a deli with hot food and like a specialty grocery kind of, but it's so good. Mac got a really good turkey sandwich on rye bread. I got randomly like eggplant bruschetta and like a little baguette and just did like a little dip.
Oh.
And it was very cool.
Like worth
It
the
was-
hype.
Yes, it was worth the hype.
Okay.
So that was fun. And just kind of had a sister day Sunday. And that was really it.
I love it. I love when you and Meg have sister days.
Yeah,
I
me
like
too.
live vicariously through
Me
them
too.
because my sister's not here.
Yes.
It makes me sad.
I should have more sister days. My sister's in the city.
Yeah.
You're inspiring me.
I live vicariously through because I have a brother.
Yeah, that too.
There's
More that.
no sister
There's
days.
never been a time he's wanted us to have
Yeah.
a day.
That's
That's
fine.
how little brothers are.
That's fine. And that's fine. Jess, what did you do this weekend?
Jake and I had a nice little, when I say a nice little date night on Friday,
Yeah.
but it was kind of an aggressive date night. We saw
Like literally the most aggressive date night ever. Please explain.
We saw our favorite DJ. Her name is Rez,
Yes.
female DJ, Canadian, amazing. She played one of our favorite venues, Brooklyn Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
But as Mirage Friday nights go, she did not go on until 1 a.m.
Obviously.
Oh my goodness.
We ended up at my favorite alien-themed dive bar in Brooklyn.
There's so much to unpack.
And we went to bed when the sun came up. So I recovered the rest of the weekend, but it was really fun.
So to those who don't know what Brooklyn Mirage is, can you explain
Sure.
it?
So it's in my opinion, the best music venue in the city. But it is very much in industrial Brooklyn. So it's by like House of Yes, like those warehouse clubs. And the venue, there's an indoor portion, which is fun. But the part that I like is the outdoor portion. And it looks like a castle. It's amazing.
That's crazy.
Jake and I lived in Denver for a while. We loved going to Red Rocks shows. I won't say it's better than Red Rocks. Red Rocks wins every
Iconic.
time. But it's a close second. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's a good time.
And then Jake showed up at the boxing event, which I was so impressed
yeah,
by.
same.
Was confused by that.
I saw him walk in. I look at Sam, I'm like, how is he here?
Yeah. Well, he
Like-
wasn't planning on it, which I was proud. I was like, don't make plans Saturday. Like, we're going to be tired. But he slept all day Saturday. I did one of those things that I woke up after only a couple hours of sleep and just watched really bad reality TV.
Yeah.
And was just kind of in a haze.
That's
While
fine.
he got like real sleep and got up and he's like, I'm going to go to the event. I'm like, tell everyone I said hi. But like, there's no way I'm going off the couch.
No
yeah,
way.
No
That's
way.
fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
but it's a good weekend.
Taylor, what about you?
I went out with some friends, worked, and then I went home to my hometown to see my family. I've only been once, I think, since February, and I live an hour and a half away. Like and even the one time I went home, I didn't see them because I was there for an engagement. So I would text them. I'm like, can we like hang out? Like I haven't seen my whole family in forever.
Nice.
So I went home and spent the day with them. So that was
Nice.
nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. What'd you do?
What did I do? Friday I did nothing. Saturday I went to the boxing event. And then I was supposed to go to the like actual boxing match. And Dan was going to get tickets, but we had a mutual friend that was like, oh no, he's like, this other guy's going to get him so other people could take Dan's tickets that he had. That guy fell through. Shocker.
Sure.
And so me and one of my girlfriends were just like, oh, it's fine. We'll just like, gets me every time. We'll just go to Anejo and like get one drink and some
gosh,
chips and
classic.
salsa.
That never happens.
Like they love me in the worst way possible because I left at 11:30, a very reasonable time to go home on a Saturday night. hammered.
Yeah.
Like
They love a free shot there.
like literally like 4 shots in and 3 drinks. And they're like, oh, here's some like salsa and a glass of water. And I'm like, God,
You're like, it's too late.
Yeah.
perfect. I'm like
Yeah,
pouring
make
out
a
my
shot.
heart to this person at a bar, and there's like it was dark. And so Sunday it was just like a haze.
Yes.
But boxing event was great. It was fun
I heard
to
it was a great turnout.
Yeah, it looked awesome.
yeah, I think it was I think Dan was a little nervous at first because
Sure.
it like wasn't a like watch party.
No, but it's a totally different fan base and
Yeah.
event. I think it sounded great.
Like there was a bunch of people there that like I didn't know who they were, but they were important in the boxing world, and so
cool.
that's like cool that they
Yeah.
showed up
Very
for
cool.
Dan.
Very cool.
Dan is sneaky, so cool.
Like low
Not
key,
even sneaky. I think he's just cool.
like,
yeah, like
one of the most
Jake Paul,
popular,
like tagging
very
him in his
Right?
Instagram story.
Yeah.
Like Dan is so cool.
like just killing the game.
yeah, he's so cool.
I love it. I love it. Well, great weekend for everyone. Jess, you ready to dive into your interview?
I guess so.
I think people are dying to hear more about
it's a
you.
tell all.
Tell all. Oh, yes. Which, speaking of, before we dive in,
Yes.
have you kept up with Vanderpump stuff?
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not a Vanderpump girl.
Neither am I,
Don't
but
watch
I'm in
it,
deep.
But I am invested in the drama.
I've, like, been texting
I went to Stassi's live show a couple weeks ago. A friend of mine is like a big Bravo girl. And
Okay.
she's like, I'll buy you a ticket, go to Stassi's live show. And I was like, I don't watch the show. Like, I don't know if this is like, if I'm the right audience for this.
Yeah.
I had such a good time.
Yeah.
Those girls can drink though.
yeah.
Like,
They can drink and
really.
just talk.
She does
like
her tour
mad
with
shit.
Taylor Strecker, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good time. But yeah, I've caught up. I have not watched the reunion, but we can talk about it. I will just try to stay.
Well, I don't. Sam, have you watched any of it? Have you kept up with
No,
any of
I've
it?
never watched, but I keep up because the Toast talks about it. But I've never watched an episode.
I haven't either. I've just kept up with the reunion for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just watch this, and I'm texting Taylor after every. I'm like,
Okay,
what is this shit?
You're inspiring me. I'm gonna dive in.
I watched it all. Like I've seen the whole thing. I binged it a couple
You've
years
been-
ago.
okay.
I've been
there.
in the world.
I've been
of
told
Bravo.
if I just watch this season, like
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Yeah,
mean-
it's yes. You can watch this season and then the reunions, and you'll
I'll
get it.
follow
It just they're just understanding everyone's relationships. It helps to have all like the past years of like how traumatic this really was for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you watch the season and then the reunions, you'll be fine.
Perfect.
But I will say I think it's worth to watch the whole thing. But if you just do the season, I told her I'm like just watch the whole thing.
I watch like bad reality shows, so this is this.
I'm
this
shocked
seems
you've
good.
never watched it.
I know.
yeah,
I
this is
know.
this is like I love bad reality
Yeah,
shows. So like
I'm a
Yeah.
Love Is Blind. I just finished The Ultimatum, the
yeah.
queer edition. Like I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah.
Well, add it to the list too.
Yes.
'Cause I'm just gonna hold on to it and maybe watch an episode here or there, and then just like wait till like the seasonal depression kicks in,
Yes.
like come
It's a
like
good
November,
winter.
December.
We should watch it together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and just
definitely
like we're
watch it together.
just like
yeah.
by the time like next February rolls
Yeah, you
around, I'm
have
gonna be
to,
caught up.
Board shows for the
Yeah.
winter.
And then like Summer House and Southern Charm, and they're all like low key
They're kind of
connected.
connected.
So like if
I've
you
learned
dive into
that.
one, I think it's gonna encourage you to want to dive into others. Because I started with Summer House.
Okay.
Is Southern Charm? Is that the one with Charleston?
Yes.
That's the one I have a friend on.
Of course you do.
One of the guys on there, Joe, the really pretty boy,
Is that
the tan one.
Southern Hospitality?
Southern Hospitality.
Okay, you're
those are
friends
two
with-
different.
So Southern Charm.
There's so many.
So Southern Charm is like Vanderpump Rules in the sense that it was like just a friend group,
That's right.
like but in Charleston.
yes.
Okay.
Then from there, one of the girls on Southern Charm, owns a bunch of restaurants, like the really
Yeah.
popular ones, like in that area.
I see.
And then she got a spin off Southern Hospitality, and that's about the kids that work at her clubs.
And I know one of him.
And you know one of them.
Weird. He actually wants to come on the show.
Come on.
I'm like-
I have so much to chat with him about.
Yes. We have so much to unpack.
You have to
Taylor
watch
might
it
be
first.
hosting that.
Yes, 1,000.
I'm like, Joe,
I'm just going to
sit
sit
down.
back.
I have
Just Taylor,
so many
take the lead.
questions.
Take the lead.
Actually, one of the girls in that show, weirdly enough, my dad and her mom dated like all for like a good chunk of high school, and like our parents are still in touch.
So
Like our
random.
parents are still friends.
What a small world.
Yeah, really
I love
weird.
it.
My mom texted me, she's like, you know this
Odd.
girl.
Yeah.
Like low key, you guys hung out when you were kids, but like I
Huh.
don't remember.
So funny.
Reality TV.
Yeah,
We love how
wild.
it comes full circle. All right, Jess.
Yes.
Ready to talk about you?
I think so.
We are.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh boy.
We start each interview off with the same question for everyone.
Yes.
Who are you?
It's very existential.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone kind of takes a different route.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I am Noodle's mom.
I love that's how we start this.
Like,
Who's
Noodle's
Jake?
mom. Yeah.
Noodle's mom.
Yeah. I'm Noodle's mom. People around here and probably watching this also know me as Jake's wife.
Yes.
Secondly.
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 But first, Noodle's mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'm also a good daughter and friend and sister and all that. But those are the two titles that I hold on to most, especially in the Jomboy world.
I love that. I mean, you've leaned into it because you
Yes.
you added Talkin
Oh yeah.
to your social handles,
Yeah,
all
that's
the
fun.
stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm talking Jess. Noodle's talking Noodle, although he's never
love it.
Never said a word yet. We're working on it.
Close.
If he just says one word, like we are,
We're good.
counts.
Good. Life is complete.
so
I love
we're
that.
working on it.
Okay, so for those who don't know, where did you grow up, go to college, what'd you study, like
All
those
that.
details?
Yeah. I was born in Tampa, Florida, so I actually grew up going to spring training games, funny enough. So some Yankees connection.
Full circle moment.
My dad's a doctor, and he likes to boast that he was Steinbrenner's doctor.
Love that.
So we got the Christmas card every year. So some
That's
early
cool.
Yankees connection.
I didn't
I
know
love that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
I went to high school in Winter Park, Florida, which is like Orlando,
Mm-hmm.
Central Florida. And, high school, I went to a prep school because Florida, the schools are a little dicey. So a lot of people go to private school. It's
Okay.
not uncommon. And I went to a school that it was not weird. It was actually kind of cool to do debate. So I was captain of my debate team in high school. Jake and I were very different people in high school. But fun fact, we were both our class presidents.
Interesting.
He was definitely the popularity vote from what I've gathered from his friends.
Yeah.
I was the really involved one.
Yeah, the
Trying to
involved
get
and
into
I've won
college.
every debate
Yes,
one.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
okay.
I went to college in Nashville,
Whoop, whoop.
so we have that connection. I went to Vanderbilt. And I wanted to get out of Florida, but was scared of the Northeast in winter. And so I was not looking. I mean, it did well in school, so I wasn't looking at Ivies or anything. I was I want to have fun and go somewhere in the Southeast. Vandy was great. I'm proud of going there before I think Nashville really blew up.
Yeah,
Became,
you can hold on to that.
And blew. Yeah, now it's kind of just a bachelorette capital, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a nightmare,
It's
and
a
I
night-
love it,
it is a
but it's a
nightmare.
nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
But we went there when you could go to Broadway on a Saturday night, and that was fine.
And it wasn't hell.
It wasn't hell. Yeah, so that was good. In college, I studied. So my major was public policy.
Okay.
I minored in human and organizational development. So it's all about how people work together.
That's cool.
It was also the traditional athlete major because it was a little easier than engineering.
I love that.
I'm not an athlete, but I like to hang out with the athletes. I do always joke, I'm Jake, what you do is cool, but it'd be way cooler if you were a Yankee and you were talking about the Yankees. So I was
And Jake's I know.
Yeah. So I was
No shit.
trying to pursue that a little in college. But anyways,
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I always thought I was going to be a lawyer, and I think that's because I did debate in high school. I think I was interested. I mean, I was interested in law. Got into some law schools, and then senior year had my first, I feel existential moment. I was why do I want to go to law school? This is an expensive degree. It's really hard.
Yeah.
All my friends that are older and are lawyers hate what they're doing. So I made a very last minute decision not to. And
So you got into law school, and then you're like, nah.
yeah.
Subtle flex.
Yes.
Keep going.
And took a job at this not at the time kind of random, but a very good fit consulting firm in Dallas. I had one good high school friend moving to Dallas and was I want to go somewhere new that's not home. Love my family, but wanted to make a name for myself.
Yeah.
So I ended up in Dallas after college.
And Dallas to Nashville to Dallas is a pretty similar transition.
Yes.
They're very similar places.
It was an amazing place to go right after college.
Yeah.
Where I lived was an extension of college.
Yes.
Uptown Dallas was very much like I lived at this building that, you know, post Worthington, like people who are from Dallas know the post Worthington. It is like a frat house. The pool every Saturday, there's kegs, there's a live DJ.
Love that.
I took a trolley to work. Also, Dallas is such a like great place to live in terms of like you don't make that much money, but you live so well.
Yeah.
I had a walk-in closet and like ensuite bathroom.
That's awesome.
Making not that much money. So I kind of did it in reverse, and now I'm like schlepping myself.
Made it to the big city.
It was a really good transition into like quote
Nice.
unquote adulthood.
Nice.
Yes.
So moved to Dallas after college. That's where you met Jake.
I did.
How did you two meet? Like, what's the story? I'm sure everyone is dying to know.
Yeah. So we both moved to Dallas, I think around the same time, like within the same year, but we didn't meet for 2.5 years. So it was funny. He lived in West Village, which is a mile from where I lived. We went to all the same bars. We had some overlapping friends.
Interesting.
But we didn't meet each other. So the first 2 years I was in Dallas, I was going on a lot of dates. And I viewed it as like, one, I, you know, wasn't making a ton of money, first job out of college, and wanted to get some nice drinks and meals out on the town.
I love that.
I also thought it was just a good way to meet people. Like,
Yeah.
I went on, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I probably went on over 100 first dates. Like, I went on like 2 or 3 dates a week.
Good for you.
And a lot of duds, a lot of friends.
Yeah.
A couple, like, interests, but nothing didn't go anywhere serious. And by the time I met Jake, it was through Bumble, so dating apps can work.
Nice.
And, you know, the women make the first move on Bumble, and my iconic line was, "Hey there."
I was like, oh my God, please.
I was like, the
help.
build up.
Which is what I said to everyone I met.
Like, copy paste.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it struck me that I mean, this isn't going to surprise anyone, he was very funny.
Yeah.
And we both were kind of aligned to that, like, if we didn't meet up within a week of, like, matching and talking, it wasn't going to happen. Because there were so many times you would, like, even see someone on a different dating app, and you're like, we matched, like, 6 months ago, we never met up. So, like, we had done the apps enough to know that, like, we had to meet up in a certain amount of time. And so I think he was the one, I wish I had the conversation saved, but I don't. But he was the one that was like, hey, like, we should grab a drink. And I was like, yeah, I could do Thursday. I never did weekend dates. Like, weekends were for friends. Like, I'm not doing first dates on a weekend. And he's like, well, I'm going to San Francisco this weekend. He was actually going to visit Jimmy to shoot their YouTube series, Grown Losers. He did not tell me the full thing of that until after. But he's like, I'm going to San Francisco. I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, so the only night I could do is Wednesday. And I said, you know, Wednesday works for me, but it's a little weird because Wednesday is my birthday. And I have friends. I told him. I was like, I have friends. I have friends coming in town this weekend. I have happy hour plans after work, but I don't have, like, you know, later plans. And it was my golden birthday, my 24th birthday. Ooh. But, like, I wasn't doing anything big the day of. So I was like, if you're okay with that, like, let's grab drinks. And he was like, sure, let's do it. So we did, and we went to my go-to first date spot. It's called Tate's. It's now like a hookah bar, but at the time, it was a nice cocktail bar. Nice. Conveniently right across from my apartment.
Nice.
And I was friends with the bartender,
nice.
So we had hand signals if it was going well, if it wasn't.
That's
we
amazing.
had escape routes.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I had it down. He had no idea. I was like, yeah, we should try this place.
Oh my God.
But, like, I had been there so many times. It was
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
It really is.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, we connected, like, right away. I mean, he was very funny. He was definitely nervous. He asked me when my birthday was.
No, like a nervous question,
like
like
a nervous
panic.
question. Yeah. And I was like, right now.
Like,
So he didn't like come up and be like, oh my God, happy birthday. Like, it's so nice to meet you.
But then, like, later
Just
in the
completely-
conversation, like, I don't know, we weaved back to that, and he felt so stupid, but I thought it was funny.
you're like, today.
Yes, right now. We realized that our moms have the same birthday, which is kind of weird. I don't know how that came up in conversation.
Just like a good trend. Your birthday. So
yeah.
my mom's birthday is.
right. Right. Let's talk about my mom.
Yeah. First date. Good first
But
date
no,
topic.
it was a great first date. Jake always says, like, the more I tell it, it's been almost 8 years now. I always get drunker, like, as the years go on. I'm like, oh, I was really drunk.
Yeah. I don't remember shit.
He's like, I don't think you were. And I was like, no, like, I had some drinks.
Yeah, some liquid courage.
And he did too.
That's
So,
fine.
Yeah.
Well, you forgot your birthday, and it was your birthday.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I would agree with
Hope
that
that's
statement.
the case, yeah.
So you two start dating in Dallas. I know that you guys eventually moved to Colorado, but
Yes.
obviously, like you just said, he was going to start shooting stuff with Jimmy in San Francisco. So this whole like Jomboy Media thing was kind of building behind the scenes, like
They didn't
wow,
know it yet.
right?
So they were. Jake was doing. He's brought it back recently, but he was doing at the time. He was being himself, honestly, and he still is. He was doing his gym dance videos.
Oh yeah.
He used to have this routine. He'd get up really early and go to the gym when no one was there in his building and like shoot these hilarious videos. And like when I met him, like his whole feed was that. And so my friends are like, Jess, what?
Who are you going on a date with? Who is this guy?
You're like, no, I really like him, and they're like,
Yeah.
are we sure?
Yeah. They're like, is he okay? I'm like, I think so. And he had mentioned Jimmy, and like, he's like, oh, this is my best friend. At the time, he lived in the Bay Area, and he told me more on the first date. He's like, yeah, like we have this like YouTube TV show. I don't really know how like many people watched the show at the time. I think it's grown in popularity since.
A little.
But it was just an excuse, kind of how Jomboy is. It was an excuse for them to get together and have fun, and
Yeah.
so that was their first like venture into it.
Okay.
But like the way they approached it, I think, is the way they approached Jomboy Media, which is like it was not with like business or profit in mind. It
Yeah.
was literally like, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And they did.
So he started doing that in Dallas when you guys
Yes.
were starting to date. When you
Yes.
moved to Colorado, obviously full on dating because you were moving to Colorado
Yes.
together.
Well, he moved there first. So when I met him, he was working in the electrical supply industry.
I would like.
Yeah, insane.
I would love to see him doing that. I would love to see Jimmy doing like wedding
I know.
videography
I know.
and Joe's being in
selling
sales.
Verizon.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Jake was like full polo and khakis every day, like spiked
awesome.
hair, like corporate. Yeah. But he was doing well with the company, so they
Yeah.
wanted to move him to Denver. He was already in the process of that when we met.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wanting to get out of Dallas. Like, Texas is either a place you're like Texas forever,
Like,
or
yeah.
like this is a little
Good chapter.
Like, yeah, exactly. So I was wanting to move to New York. All my friends were here from college. But I was open to like other ideas, and I met him, and he kind of convinced me, hey, Denver might be fun for a couple of years. So I found my own place. I found my own job.
Nice.
We were only dating like 6 months when I moved there. So I was like, I'm going to be sensible about it, but it just felt like the right thing to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we've talked to Katie. We've had Katie on the show and
Yeah.
getting her view. And I think your view and her view are really interesting for the audience because obviously we've heard Jimmy and Jake talk about it so many times, but hearing it from you guys is, I think, really interesting. So what's your view and your take on like the beginning days? Like, like when did you think, oh, this is something? And here we are.
We're recording. We're on air. Hi, babe.
How are you? How's it going?
It's
Good.
going good.
Talking shit.
Yeah, so much shit about you.
Spilling the tea.
Good stuff about Noodle, though, obviously.
What did you just? Is that a shark
Okay.
head?
All right.
Dolphin.
It's a doll. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Anyways, before we were so rudely interrupted. Early days, what was I thinking? So when
Yeah.
Jake, similar to like the grown loser thing, Jake was like, hey, Jimmy was really, he was doing his wedding videographer thing in the Bay Area, but he wanted to do something with like his Yankees fandom. And so he was on Twitter and like grew an audience on Twitter. And Jimmy had, said to Jake, hey, I think Jimmy had actually started the podcast maybe already or like done an episode or two. But he's like, hey, it'd be cool if we did this together. And so the way Jake framed it to me is like, hey, I think I'm going to do a podcast about the Yankees with Jimmy. It'll just be like a good way to catch up with my best friend once a week. And I was like, cool. Like, go for it. And at the time, like, the only podcast I listened to, and, like, still only listen to, is, like, true crime podcasts. So I was like, if people will listen to that, like, awesome.
Yeah.
But he very much framed it like, this is a hobby. I'm helping Jimmy out. We'll see. It's, like, something I'll do once a week. And I was like, whatever you want to do. Like, that sounds great. And for a while, like, it really was just a hobby. Like, he was working in electrical supply. He was very much a, like, live to work type of person. Like, he, you know, after 4 o'clock, he was kind of off the clock. And he'd go golf, and then he'd, like, come home and watch Yankees. And, like, that was it. And it started to change when they, like, pretty organically, that, like, this was the thing he talked about more than anything else.
Yeah.
And then his, you know, company kind of made the decision for him, and they nicely let him go. And, you know, there was a period of time for a couple of months where he was trying to find another job and do this. And he was really torn and, like, not having a good time with it. And I, at the time, I had found, when I moved to Denver, I'd found a great tech company. I knew I wanted to be in tech and had grown with the company. So, you know, I was making a good 6-figure salary in Denver, like, providing well. And I was like, hey, like, why don't you just focus on, like, what you care about for 6 months and let's see how it goes. So he covered his rent, but, like, everything else I paid for. And my friends and family were like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, we got
rightfully
the
so.
Yeah.
I think any, like, friend or family would be like, hey,
Concerned.
like, a little concerned. Yeah.
And that on top of the dance videos, you're like, okay,
What is this
But
man?
honestly, I just knew, I was like, if he focuses on this and isn't distracted, I think it can be something really big.
So that was the moment you were like, I think this is something.
Yeah. I mean, enough to, like, I was willing to, like,
Enough to bet on him.
Enough to bet on him. We literally had to get, like, a domestic partnership to get him on my insurance, and my coworkers threw us, like, a domestic partnership party. It was, like, so we did stuff like that, so he could focus on this.
Nice.
And that was, like, I knew I didn't have, like, a reason other than just, like, an instinctual belief that it could be something. And then I think my, like, evidence to friends and family was when the Astros thing happened. I was like, okay, look.
So see?
See? I was like, I knew something was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, quick break. I got to tell you about this spot that Joe's McFly and I just got back from. We ventured on down to Soho to this new spot called Neat Burger. It is a plant-based, very simple ingredient, fast casual type of restaurant. So cute, very Instagrammable. They have literally an entire wall of just neon signs that you just want to take a picture next to. And on top of that, everything's made in-house, simple ingredients, and they literally named a wrap after me, Paxton's pulled pork wrap. No one's ever done that before. It's quite possibly one of the nicest things people have done for me. I have a wrap named after me. And Joe's has a salad. And you can try them. If you use code Jomboy, you get $5 off your next $15 or more purchase if you use the link in the description, okay? So use code Jomboy for $5 off your next order of $15 or more. And you can try my wrap. You can try Joe's salad, or mine and Joe's personal favorite, they have this buffalo chicken sandwich and these buffalo cauliflower bites. Like, when I tell you, it was so good. They also have loaded tater tots. And I don't need to describe anything else because all of that is phenomenal. It's in Soho. Just venture on down, or you can order it online. Use code Jomboy for $5 off your next $15 purchase or more if you use the link in the description. Back to the interview. And so, I mean,
but similar to Kate, like, Katie was working a bunch of restaurant
jobs,
supporting
grinding.
Jamie. I was, you know, a different kind of grinding, but, like, selling my soul to a startup.
Yeah.
And, you know, was lucky enough that I, like, really liked the company, but still was grinding my way there. And Jake would, you know, almost be embarrassed going to my, like, office parties because he'd be like, well, I'm living in Denver and I have a Yankees podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't be embarrassed. It's cool. But, like, he wasn't confident in it yet. And it makes sense why he wasn't. Because it's not the traditional thing to do.
No. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people know it, but I think that sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle that you and Katie, like, y'all did a lot behind the scenes. Like, you two, and I don't say that lightly, like, you two really supported the two men that you loved and like gave them a foundation to like be able to build something like this. Like that's like why we're here.
I was just gonna say thanks.
Like right, like that's why we're here. And like I think, and I know they both are so appreciative and let you know and have over the years. But
yes. And Katie did a lot more with the business. We can talk about that. Like she is
really
a saint. Oh well, I mean she worked for you
yeah.
guys. We had kind of like a wall between that. We decided like to kind of build, but I supported him behind the scenes.
Was there ever a moment you were like, maybe I could do something for the company?
Oh yeah. I mean, so we had made the decision, I guess the summer of 2019, that we were going to move to New York the next spring, open the office in the Bronx. And I was grinding at this company. I loved it, but I was burnt out. And so I knew I was going to take some time off when we made the move. And I was in conversations with like really great companies in New York. We moved March 2020 from Denver to New York.
Really great time on the calendar.
Great timing.
If you want to circle back to March 2020.
The week before the pandemic. And, you know, I already knew I was going to take a couple months off, but like.
A week before.
That's fine. But like being, you know, even though it was my choice, being unemployed at that time, and this has spurred what I'm doing now, but like I went through a pretty painful and hard job search because companies didn't know what they were doing. And so I was looking very intently. I interviewed 101 times at a lot of companies, mostly in tech. And there were so many times I was like, because I was helping them, right? Like I have the experience of building, you know, at that point I had built a company from 30 people to 250 and sold. Like I knew what I was doing when it came to the business aspect. And I was giving them, I had to hold my tongue a lot, but I was giving them advice. Like just based on like what I knew operationally and strategy wise. And like I know how to manage a P&L and build a budget and like all the things that they love them, but like they don't know what to do. But Jake, you know, had this point that he holds by and I really respect it, was like, I know you can add value and you could work here, but it would be building my dream, not yours, and you'd become resentful. And he's absolutely right, because that's like, you know, even though I loved the company I was working in at Denver, and I've worked at a lot of companies since, I always got to a point where I was like, this isn't my dream, and I'm busting my ass, and this isn't like my vision. And he knew I was going to do the same thing for him, and like that can ruin a relationship. And you didn't want like to come home and just talk about work all the time. So there was definitely some moments, especially during that job search, I was like, can you just hire me? Like I will help. And he's like, we could look at a contract. Like he, you know, he was willing to get creative, but he's like, why don't you just hold out a little longer? Like, let's find something you actually want to do. Because I'm not like, I didn't grow up a baseball fan. I'm not your traditional sports fan. I've grown to appreciate it, but like, you know, I didn't have a dream for myself to build a sports media company.
It would just be another thing on your resume.
Exactly.
It didn't, not that it didn't mean anything to you,
messy.
but
it does. Just another thing on your resume with risk.
Right.
Too. You know what I mean? It's not even like, it's not like, oh, this is a no-brainer just for the experience. It's like, there's also risk involved.
There is.
Yeah.
And emotion. And I always knew I'd be involved. But I'm glad I never made that like official leap. Because I think it would have really complicated things and made me resentful. So
I mean, I'm assuming that time period in your life probably taught you a lot of patience, because you went from like grinding and working and like making an income and doing all these things, and you moved to a new city in the middle of a global pandemic, and you can't find a job that you love, and you're watching Jake like do something he loves. So it's almost like you swapped roles.
Oh, completely. I was the breadwinner in Denver. I was the careerist. And then it totally swapped.
Like
and that was really
too,
hard. Very quickly. And that was really hard. Like my therapist would say it was a triggering time for me.
I can imagine.
Because I was so proud of him and so happy for them, but at the same time, like almost a victim mentality, like why can't this happen for me too?
And there's like a little bit, it's human nature to have a little bit of like envy of like, I want that.
And like I've learned that envy is like really helpful and insightful, because it shows me like what I'm doing now is building my own business, and we can talk about that. But like when you're envious of someone, like take note of that, because it's probably what you should be looking at doing yourself. But yeah, it was a hard time, like mentally probably the hardest time I've had. But I've now, like, all the pieces have kind of come together I had to go through that to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And we'll get to that.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're in 2020.
Yes.
End of 2020. Like, so tell me the time frame of, like, you move here, like, they're grinding out, they're building this business, right?
Yep.
At what point did you find a job here, and then when did you guys get engaged? Where did those fall on the timeline?
So I found a job at an e-commerce company here, and I started in September of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So I had around like a 6-month kind of soul search in the pandemic. And we didn't get engaged until the next year, November 2021. And that was because, I mean, if I'm being honest, like, I didn't, like, even though we had a ring, we got the ring together, like, we both kind of contribute to it, we picked it out together. I wanted to feel, like, confident in, like, where I was going and what I was doing. And, like, I knew we were gonna get married, but, like, he wanted me to be, like, happy and not in a weird place.
Yeah.
So it took us a little longer, which is fine.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
So you're working here. He's still building this company.
Yep.
You guys get engaged.
Yes.
You, if I remember correctly, then leave that job, go to another one for a short period of time.
So I was at a job for like 6 months.
Yep.
And then I left that to build a business with my friend.
Yes.
And kind of a similar, like, parallel story to Jimmy and Jake, like a best friend from college. And, you know, I was helping, very much, like, just felt like I was helping her, and then it made sense for me to come on full time. So it was a conscious consumer platform. Still very much involved. That's why I'm dressed up right now. I'm going to pitch to some investors after this with her. But that was an interesting time. I worked with her full time for 1.5 years. And again, when we think about, like, the parallels between what I was doing and Jake, you know, Jake at that time and Jimmy, they were getting money thrown at them from like athletes and venture funds. And then Mary Claire and I, building Cluey, we were taking any meeting we could. It was very much like the female founder story. And, you know, it's still going, but it was not the same experience. And again, a little bit of, like, envy and resent came there because we were trying so hard to, like, build something. And it was coming, it seemed easy, even though I know it wasn't easy, but it almost seeed that way from the outside.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting time as well.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine.
Yeah.
And so how did you get to you now have your own company?
Yes.
And I know you're itching and dying to talk about it.
I
am. At what point, like, how did we get to this point of you being like, screw this, I'm just going to do my own thing? Like, walk me through that process of getting that. Because you've also gotten married in this whole time span.
I'll walk you through the timeline. So I was with
that.
Chloe for like 1.5 years. And it came a point that I was, you know, happy to be there and having a lot of fun building a company with my friend. But, like, the realities of life, like, I wanted to be making a New York salary, and that's really hard at an early stage startup. Like, you are, you know, get a lot of equity, but salary wise, I wanted to be making more, and I wanted to get back into, my background was, you know, more product development, like building technical product. And so I was like, I want to be a product manager again at a New York company. I took a job in, I think it was September last year. And the way the tech industry is going, was there only 10 weeks and was laid off. And that was a blessing, mostly. I was stressed about the wedding. Our wedding was in February, so I was around...
In a different country.
Yeah. So I was around 3 months out from that. I was wanting to do something different with my career anyways. Like, I thought that that's what I wanted, which was, like, full-time in an office in New York, making a lot of money. And I was like, this isn't fulfilling or making me happy either. So I already had this plan. I was going to leave after the wedding. So when they laid me off, I was like, okay, like, this is kind of a good nudge. So I decided I'd take the holidays and the time ramping up to the wedding to just focus on that. Like, you hopefully only get married once. And there was a lot of logistics, getting married in St. Lucia. So I did that. And then when I came back, I really had no desire to go work for someone else. Like, I had kind of had enough of building someone else's dreams and feel like I've been, like, undervalued and overworked. And I should note on the side, ever since 2020 and I went through that job search, the way I coped with that was that I wrote about it. So I wrote on Medium and LinkedIn and some other places. And I'd been helping people just like pro bono throughout the years, helping them find a job, get clear on what they want to do. And I was like, you know what? I had someone literally say, can I pay you for this? Like, this is a business. And that was one sign. The other sign was I got a letter from the state of New York saying, hey, we'll extend your unemployment benefits if you start a business in New York. And I was like, oh.
Say less.
Like, they'll pay my rent for 6 months. Okay. And so I did. So I started my business right after the wedding. So, like, officially in April of this year, and it's called Reflect Your Light, and it's all about empowering people to dim their fears and shine their brightest through career transition. So I do that one-on-one coaching. I'm starting some group coaching, working on online courses. I would love to go talk to college students because I feel like no one helps people navigate that very well.
Literally no one.
But what I do is I do kind of a combination of what I wish I would have had when I went through that really hard job search, which is like some mindset work, but also just like really practical systems to use. So like resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, communication, engagement strategy. I use my network to help people find roles, do networking the way you should be when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's super fulfilling, and it finally is like a way that I feel like my career makes sense. Like all the different twists and turns I've had, I'm like, oh, it's led me to do this. And it's just getting started, but I'm really excited about it.
What's been the hardest part about it?
I think the hardest part, which is like most entrepreneurs, is to focus on one thing right now. I have a huge vision for what it is, beyond just myself, but just like getting focused on one thing, which I have done, and I have like very good mentors that are helping me. But right now I'm really focused on what I think people need the most of, which is there's a lot of layoffs happening, especially in my network. So I'm hosting a webinar actually tomorrow. It's totally free. It's called Laid Off to Leveled Up. And it's just what I wish I would have known when I got laid off even last year, like what I wish I would have done. And hopefully that's a way for people just to learn from my mistakes, honestly. And then, you know, if they want to work with me further, that's great. But if not, at least I help somebody. So
You're like playing like the big sister role.
yeah,
literally.
Yeah. And it's fun. Like I imagined my clients being kind of people like me, like millennial women. But I just helped a 25-year-old guy get a job offer last week.
Nice.
And I have a 55-year-old woman client, and she's doing great too.
Nice.
So like it's really fun to work with people from so like it's whoever needs the help and is willing to do the work.
I think it's crazy because you, especially just growing up in this day and age, I think we're told like a lot of different things about a career and like what's important and like what you should strive for, and like everything is always like, you know, you want to just make a lot of money and then that's going to bring you happiness, and it's like the farthest thing from the truth.
Totally. Even when I was at a company that was great and was paying me a lot of money in Denver, I had this like emptiness inside.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a lot of friends that feel the same way. They work at these like big tech or consulting firms, make more money than they could have dreamed of, but like they don't feel fulfilled. And I'm not saying work should fulfill you. I think that's another like American conception.
Right.
But there is a way to find balance and like focus on what you enjoy.
You can like
and
wake
you guys
up.
are like living testaments to that.
Yeah, honestly.
So
honestly.
it's possible, but it's hard. It's not what we're taught to do. And that's why I'd love to talk to even like high school students. That's why I volunteer. And I brought Paxton with me to volunteer with high school girls. But like trying to get in earlier and like kind of plant the seed that like you can think differently than just like this, you know, straight career ladder.
Yeah, you don't have to go through a bunch of shitty jobs to like find
I kept
happiness.
telling myself like, oh, this is a stepping stone. This is a stepping stone. It's like, get rid of the stepping stones.
Yeah.
Just, like, do what you want to do.
Yeah, I also think there's like so much fear in leaving a job, or fear around if I choose this and I set myself on this path, like how could I ever veer away from it? I'm not qualified to do X, Y, and Z. Like I want to switch, but I have nowhere to start. Like
there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
We work through that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a therapist. I am a very big advocate of therapy, and I think that can help. But I do work with people on, and I've like mentors have helped me just like saying those fears out loud and realizing how ridiculous they are, because there's not one path, and like you can go and do this and then change your mind, and like no one cares.
And so many skills,
in a good way.
so many skills
are transferable.
Like things that you're not thinking of. It's not like the physical job. It's leadership and like time management and
those
things that are just
skills.
that are just across the board. Like I have a friend whose fiance is in the Navy and he's a naval officer. He has like security clearance, like international. Like he's literally like so powerful, and he's gonna leave the Navy, and he's like, I don't know what to do after that. I don't have any like
I would love
tangible
to talk
skills.
to him. I just helped someone who is very high up in the military, went through the same thing, transitioning to the private sector. And I was like, you could be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think you understand how like
but they're not telling them.
Right.
That. It's kind of the same thing. Like, I'd love to talk to colleges. I'd love to talk to the military.
Yeah.
Like, they need help transitioning people out.
No, seriously.
But even though he holds this like amazing, powerful job, he's worried that when he's done, he's not gonna have anything that transfers to outside of the Navy life. And I'm like, dude, like everything you've learned in the Navy is going to help you. It doesn't matter that you don't have the exact skill. You can be taught that. You can't be taught like leadership, time management. That stuff is like way more just ingrained in someone's being. So like there's so much like misconception about like transferring careers and things like that.
There totally is.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I think it happens to everyone, obviously men and women, but I think especially women, it's like stay on this path, like do this. Like I know for my role being on camera in sports, it's very much like you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And if you don't, well, look out, because there's someone else that wants your job, and like you're going to lose it, and like all this work is going to be for nothing.
Competitive, and like this is what people have done before, so this is what you have to do.
And it's like not that at all.
Yeah.
And there's so many misconceptions, and I think it's great that I think it's cool that you are essentially doing what you wish you had.
Totally.
And not trying to like check any boxes for like, anyone else. You're like, I wish I would have had this, so that's what I'm going to focus on.
And like one of the first things I do with people, and I encourage like no matter where you are to do this, is like set a timer for 10 minutes, get a piece of paper out, and write what is your definition of success. Because I bet it's different than what you think it is, and it's different than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it might be a fancy job title and like money and things. And if that's truly important to you and you have reasons for that, great. But if it's, having time to spend with my friends and the ability to travel and like all these things that are like not that, then like it's a good way of really vesting like, okay, am I doing what makes sense for how I define it?
There's two things that I live by, and it's just based off of situations that have happened in my career. It's like the first thing is my very first boss that I ever had out of college, not that great, but he told me, I was 21 years old, and he pulled me into his office and he was just like, do you want to be successful in this field, or do you want to have a life and a family and friends outside of this? You have to pick. And I will never forget. I was just like
at 21.
At 21.
Of course, you're probably going to be like.
Well, my answer was both. Yeah. And he was like, that's not possible. And I was like, well, I'm going to prove to you that it is. So like, that's the one thing is like being able, you can have a job you love and a career you love and also have a life.
Yes.
You can have both.
You can, but it is harder for
It's
women.
hard.
It's hard. Like I like women can have it all. Like they can, but only in some fields they can't. And that's also true.
And
like, I work with people like if you're in a very traditional finance job, especially in New York,
it's tough.
You really can't. Like you're going to have a nanny and you're not going to see your kids.
Yeah.
And like if you're okay with that, fine.
Yeah.
But like that's unfortunately a structure that's not going to change. Like you're not going to change that.
Yeah.
But there's other things out there.
Correct. There are ways there are ways to see that on the path and figure out like ways around it.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, I used to have, and I think women, especially in media and just really probably any field, truthfully, they have this idea of, okay, like the next step in my career, I have to do this, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do this, and this, and this, and this. And I think we set ourselves up to fail in that regard because if we have this like specific timeline of what success looks like.
Well, it's the same thing with relationships. People do this.
Right. And when you fall
I need to
off,
be engaged by this age.
Right.
Yeah.
Say this. And then when you don't meet those expectations,
then it's like, oh, it's a fail.
Yeah.
And that's just like so
it's good
false.
to have goals.
Correct.
But like, it has to be fluid.
Correct.
Because you change as a person. Like, you are a different person and you have different skill sets and you care about different things compared
Yes.
to when you said that 2 years ago.
I think it's important to, and it always throws people off when people ask, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's like, I see myself in a career doing what I love. And it's like, you don't see yourself at a specific job or a network or a position or anything like that. And like, I stopped setting those things
No.
a while ago because I had I didn't know I was going to be here. You didn't know you were going to be here.
didn't
You
even
didn't
know
know.
This
you
didn't even
know.
exist.
Yeah.
This
Like,
literally didn't
yeah,
exist.
like-
So it's like,
And it's much better to be like, I want to feel confident, successful.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say I've done this, this, and this. But that just creates more opportunities for you versus like being very narrow. Like, oh, I want to be a senior manager at this company.
yeah, like if I'm not on ESPN, then I'm a failure. It's like,
Right.
no, not
No,
really. Like,
yeah.
I think people, and I think it's great that you're doing it. You're kind of breaking the stigma of switching that mindset of like, just because you don't have a specific like place, thing, like direct timeline, like that does not mean that you're not driven. That doesn't
No.
mean you're not like
It's just a different
good at your
way to think
job.
about your career. And I
It also
would
just sets
argue
you
a
up to
better
success. Yeah,
way.
it sets you up to succeed.
Yeah, because the reason people want those things, like the reason we do anything is to make us happy and to feel good.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10 when you set goals like that, you either achieve them and don't feel as happy as you thought you would,
Yes.
or you don't and you don't feel happy. So you're
Yes.
like not doing what you thought you would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my best guy friends actually just talked to me about this because he works in the baseball world and he's so good at what he does, and he's essentially like created all of these roles. He's with the Cleveland Guardians now, and he's just added so much value, and he's had these, you know, specific goals, and he recently hit one, and one was to be like in the dugout on the field like during a major league game, and he did that. And he called me and he was just like, I was standing out there, like, and I had thought about that moment so many times, and I didn't have that same level of happiness that I expected myself to have.
Yeah.
And it like makes me like want to rethink everything. And I'm just like, no, you just kind of pigeonholed yourself and like thought,
That's life. I mean,
Yeah.
so many performers
Yeah.
say that, like, oh, there's a huge arena screaming for me and I don't feel fulfilled or happy.
yeah,
And that's why I think it's really important to focus on like what you define as success, but also then interrogating yourself of like why you define that as success. Because it could just be, not to go too deep in this, but like could just be society programming you
Yeah.
versus like what you actually
What you think you're
Right.
supposed
Yeah.
to want
Yeah.
instead
Right.
of what you actually want.
Totally.
because Taylor, I bet you probably dealt with this because I dealt with it too. It's like working for a sports team, right? Like that's really cool to people outside, and hearing that over and over, like, oh my God, your job's so cool. Oh my God, you're like, that's so cool. You get to do that. Like it almost kind of like validates that subconscious of like, oh, you know what? I was actually really frustrated and like annoyed with this, or maybe I'm not that
Or I'm
happy,
actually
but-
having a really hard time, but
Right.
like I have the coolest job ever.
But, like, I can't complain.
Exactly. Like there is definitely some
Yeah.
level of like, yeah, like you're just like, yeah, I'm having a hard time, or like
Yeah.
I don't love this position, or like I'm struggling at work, but it's like, who do you complain to? Because all your friends are like, oh, my job sucks.
Right.
And you're like, and everyone thinks you have the coolest job in the
Yep.
world. And then you're
It's
like,
hard. That's lonely
yeah,
too.
yeah, it can be
Yeah.
like, and it can be kind of like a mind fuck, because then you're like, oh, am I not grateful for this like
Yes.
amazing career that I
Yes.
Right.
And then you're like, it's just like so like you
And
kind of
there's
just
so
get
much that goes into work. You could work at a really cool place,
Yeah.
like a sports team, if it is actually a cool place to work.
Yeah.
But the work itself, the day to day, might suck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have a shitty boss. Like,
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables that go into like your fulfillment and happiness at work. And like those are things I also like people to focus on more so than just the job title, because job title isn't going to make you happy at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a
Anyways.
deep conversation.
Yes. We
I
went
love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's different than everyone else. Like
It
it was
is.
different. It was nice. It was a different lane.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all my questions. You guys have any questions for Jess, Sam,
No, I
Taylor?
don't think so.
Any
Do you want to
burning
grow
questions?
Reflect Your Light into a larger company?
So right now, I really am enjoying it just being me.
Yeah.
It gives me so much flexibility. You know, I get to travel when I want. I'm going to Seattle with the guys for the All-Star game and, like, don't have to check with anyone. But I think I will get bored. And so right now in the next year, it's just me, but I can see this totally evolving. My background's in technical product development. So, like, I have a vision for how tech can enable what I'm doing. I could see myself working with other coaches and having a network of that. But right now, just me and, like, building and really, like, getting confident. I mean, I am confident, but getting, like, great results for a lot of people. But I definitely think it can be bigger. And I have a feeling that I will crave that in the near future.
That's awesome.
Sky's the limit.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
That's
awesome.
so cliche to say.
It is, but it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you for having me. Any other any burning Jake questions?
No, I think when we did this with Katie too,
Yeah.
and I think us three all really strive to get to know, like, you more so
I
as a
appreciate
person.
that. I appreciate that.
Because outside of here, you're known as
Oh, yeah.
Jake's wife,
Jake's wife.
right?
Noodle's mom.
Noodle's mom, Jake's wife. But I think
But yes,
these conversations are
I
valuable
appreciate that.
because you guys obviously played a really intricate role in this company, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
You're one of the reasons why we're here. So thank you.
Unless you have anything weird about Jake you want to tell us.
Yeah, any
We're
like
always
weird
open.
facts.
You know, this might be well known, but, like, I just want to say it. He's, like, a really big Lorde fan. Like, the singer of Lorde.
I did not know that, and
Yeah.
I am as well.
Yeah. No, like, loves her. Loves.
Have you guys seen her live?
No, but, like, he puts her SNL performance on, like, routinely. So I just thought I would share that because I think
That's
people
so
know that he
funny.
loves Hunger Games, but Lorde, he
I didn't
also
know.
I didn't know he loves Hunger
That's
Games either.
what?
Oh,
The
that's
movies,
his-
or did he didn't read the books?
He did. No.
Okay.
Oh no.
I love that these are on the top of your head so easy.
Yeah, you're just like
Yeah,
Lord
well, I was
Hunger
thinking
Games.
about it. I was like, I don't think people know that, but yeah, no. Hunger Games is like his go-to airplane movie or hungover movie, which, like, for me is too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah. A lot.
To be hungover.
That's
and then
right.
be-
Yeah.
And
Sometimes
just like
I-
finding peace
He likes
in
Harry
Hunger
Potter
Games.
too, but he likes Hunger Games more.
Interesting.
But Lorde, he's a big Lorde. Lorde
You
fan.
guys should see her live.
I would love to.
She's amazing.
I'm sure.
So good.
I love
Let's
it.
do it.
One last question, actually. Did you two hear about the who would you want as your dad, Jimmy
Yeah.
or Jake?
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear the results. I just heard
Wait.
people
Okay.
being asked.
Yeah.
So it's a Father's Day video, okay? And BBD went around the office and was asking a bunch of us,
Yeah.
who would you like rather have as your dad,
Yeah.
Jimmy or Jake? Who do you think won? I know.
I
Well,
think
I have an idea, but
I think Jake probably won.
I think so, but it's tough because Jimmy's such a good dad, and he's so involved. And Jake just isn't one yet, but, like, wants to be so badly. It's another discussion.
who did
But
you
I
say?
don't know.
I said Jimmy.
They didn't ask, but I said I would want Jimmy to be my dad and Jake to be my uncle.
That's what I said.
Did you really? Literally. Yeah,
I
BBD
feel-
didn't
well,
ask.
Jimmy is just more dad vibes because he, like, literally is a dad.
Yeah.
Well, my thought was
Jake's like a fun gunkle. He's
I like Jake as a dad to like a 15-year-old teenage girl. Like I thought about myself as 15 and I'm like I would destroy Jake like as a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, walk all over him.
Yeah, we
Completely.
established that yesterday and he
Totally.
was just like,
He's so
yeah, Jess
scared
is
of
really
girls.
going to have to like
He's so scared of girls. Like I want
Another
I
fact.
want a girl puppy like so badly.
and Jake's scared to have
yeah,
that.
he's like, no, like, you guys are going to run the house. And I'm like, yeah, I'm outnumbered right now. Like, we are going to get Meatball. She's a small, apricot-sized, miniature golden doodle. And
Meatball is going to be her name?
Yeah.
Noodle and
The
meatball.
best.
Oh
But
my
we're
God.
not going to get her until we get a yard. So
I get that.
Eye roll.
Are you guys moving to Connecticut? Living near me?
probably at some point, whenever like interest rates are like,
Yeah.
what I don't even know. I'm just going to throw some buzzwords. Whenever
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
happens,
Remember the stock market?
Yeah, we're not a super competitive mortgage application at the moment with my small business.
Yeah,
and they're like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. He's like the gym videos.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
never seen
That-
these?
yeah.
Sponsored.
But yeah, we'll make the suburb move in the next year or two. But
By the time you guys are coming up, I'm going to be leaving.
Yeah.
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 we'll,
Sadly.
we'll probably
Jillian
come
out.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, Jess, you're welcome back anytime.
I would love to come back. This was so fun.
Anytime. Where can people find you on social media? I want to start adding that in because I think
Yeah.
that's important.
That
Where
is
can people
important.
find you?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm my business is at Reflect Your Light, but it's no vowels on the reflect. So RFLCT, Your Light.
Okay.
Personal, Talkin Jess.
And then follow Noodle's page, which is
Talkin Noodle.
perfect.
I'm also on Twitter. I'm trying to use Twitter more now.
I like that.
Talkin Jess as well. I'm also on LinkedIn. Jess Storiale. I did make a name change. So
Sounds
it's
nice.
official. It's nice.
Yeah.
Official.
Yeah. I had to do it for like the little bit of fame that he has. So.
Makes sense.
I changed your name in my phone the other day. I was like, oh,
Wow.
yeah, like when we had the
I
girls,
haven't done
when we had the
I haven't
girls
done
group
that.
chat going, it popped up, and I was like, that's not her name.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's official.
Yeah.
maybe I'll do that today.
Yeah.
I love that.
Exciting. Cool. Well, this was so fun.
Yep. Welcome back
Thank
anytime.
you.
That's another episode, guys. Bye.
Bye.